investor tax hikes, a rushed vote, and a government accused of trying to ram it through before anyone can stop it. Tim Wilson didn't hold back. He called it a train wreck, accused the government of contempt, and warned they're targeting the very people who built the economy. But when the questions turned to deals, carve-outs, and hidden political arrangements, everything escalated fast. What followed wasn't just an interview. It was a live political clash over who the system is really working for.
Country stands up and speaks out about this Prime Minister. They're revealing this government doesn't understand the economy, and where they want a government punching for them, they have a government punching at them.
So it's about damage limitation, in your view?
It's absolutely about damage limitation, but it's also about contempt. The Prime Minister has shown utter contempt for the Australian people. He has clearly betrayed the public and the trust they gave him at the last election. But now he's using and abusing that trust to assault the very economic foundations of the country and the self-starters who stand up to want to get ahead.
Do you suspect a deal's been done with the Greens here, therefore you'd concede defeat?
I never concede defeat, and I always believe that Labor works with tricky deals with the Teals and the Greens because they always are focused on how they empower themselves. They are not interested in how they empower Australians. And as we've said, we will fight these changes and we will repeal them as necessary.
Sure, but I mean, is this an instance where you're paying the price for a lack of numbers in Parliament?
Well, we don't have the numbers in Parliament to stop it, that's true. But it's ordinary Australians who have stood up for their own interests. We've had so many people through our website, www.notthethax.com.au, of people telling their stories about how this budget is going to smash their livelihoods, and Australians are standing up and speaking out. That's why the government's numbers are so bad.
So Julian Hill on a moment ago suggested that a carve-out or some kind of arrangement would be made before the legislation is actually put to Parliament that would include a carve-out for startups. What are your thoughts on that, if that turns out to be true?
Well, so the government's happy to support tech bros, but they're completely disinterested in the corner milk bar. I mean, what contempt does this Prime Minister and this government have that they turn around to people who have saved and sacrificed their whole lives, worked on the weekends, worked at nights, and done everything just to put themselves to be in a position to get ahead. And his only answer is to kneecap them. And of course, the big donors to the Labor Party and those who have voices get a say while they just get ignored.
So, Tim, you've got a speech today where you'll be unveiling a plan that puts business at the heart of economic policy. What's the plan?
Well, we're focused on small business being at the heart of economic policy, and we've started the Stand With Small campaign at standwithsmall.org, and in addition to that, we're going to outline and consult on a new Small Business Act, which gives small business rights that they currently lack, to make sure that they are at the heart of economic policy for government. So they're consulted, they're engaged, they're advocated for, and they're fought for.
What's your take on this exchange? Are these tax changes necessary or a step too far? Drop your opinion in the comments and join the debate below.
What rights would you be talking about there that would help them in the long run?
Well, the first thing would be a right to be heard, to actually have a say in the economic institutions of our country where they're currently denied. No, not at all. Complete contempt for, and this budget proves just how much it isn't happening. They don't have voices in different institutions, from the Reserve Bank through to other government regulators in the way that they should, where big unions do. They don't have a right to bid, the full extent of right to bid on government programs. We're going to fight for that.
Okay. Also, according to a report this morning, you want the Reserve Bank to put out impact statements on how their policies would affect smaller companies. Can you elaborate on that point?
We don't just want the Reserve Bank to do it. We want to understand, when law goes through in Parliament, that small business has a say in understanding the impact of it. You just need to look at this budget right now. The government is completely disinterested in what it is going to do and how it is going to take the wealth of small business owners all around the country, because the government can't manage its budget, and when they can't manage their money, they come after yours.
How long do you think it'd take to know the full impact of government policies or government decisions?
Well, we already have impact statements looking at other areas of regulation. We have one that's focused on human rights. So it's about making sure that small business, when it's appropriate, has a say in the economic policies of this country. We are not backing down from this because it is incredibly important.
What you just saw was a heated political exchange over the government's proposed changes to investor tax policy. And it quickly turned into a broader debate about small business, economic trust, and political accountability. The discussion began with claims that the government is trying to fast-track controversial tax hikes before Parliament breaks, with suggestions that it may rely on support from smaller crossbench groups. Shadow Treasurer Tim Wilson responded by strongly criticizing the move, calling the budget a train wreck and arguing that the government is rushing the legislation to avoid public backlash and organized opposition. He also accused the government of showing contempt toward ordinary Australians and small business owners, claiming that the policies would negatively impact people who have worked and saved over many years to build their livelihoods. According to his argument, the government is not supporting economic growth, but instead placing pressure on those trying to succeed. The questioning then shifted toward whether political deals may be forming in Parliament to pass the legislation. Wilson argued that while the opposition lacks the numbers to stop the changes, public resistance is growing, with many small businesses reportedly voicing concerns about the impact of the budget. A key part of the exchange focused on possible carve-outs in the legislation, particularly for startups or specific industries. Wilson criticized this idea, saying it would unfairly favor certain groups while ignoring smaller traditional businesses, which he referred to as being left without support. The conversation then moved to his broader policy direction, where he outlined a proposed plan to place small business at the center of economic decision-making. He described a campaign aimed at giving small businesses more formal input into government policy and regulatory decisions, including a proposed Small Business Act. He argued that small businesses currently lack representation in key economic institutions and should have a stronger voice when laws and regulations are being developed. He also suggested that regulatory bodies, including the Reserve Bank, should consider formal impact assessments on how policies affect smaller enterprises. From a wider perspective, this exchange highlights a recurring political divide. One side arguing that economic reforms are necessary for fiscal management, while the other warns that such reforms may place disproportionate pressure on small businesses and working individuals. Ultimately, the disagreement is not only about tax policy itself, but about who gets represented in economic decision-making and how the effects of government policy should be measured and communicated to the public.